Welcome to my daily review. Today is Wednesday, June 4, and another winning day for the Nasdaq. You can see it was up 61 points or 0.32% on 15% below the 50-day average volume, which is that red line there. So the Nasdaq was going up with, and all these big volume bars were penny stocks being bought, millions and millions of shares of these 50 cent and dollar stocks. So, the lighter volume, take it with a grain of salt. I don't really care about the volume because me, I just like leading stocks. They lead me to where I need to be. So that's where, I focus my attention on. And the Nasdaq, great. It goes up. I don't really care about the volume. It's nice to have the tailwinds from the index though. And you can see right now it's 9.5% above this curling red line, which is your 50-day simple moving average. It's bounced off its 5 today, so very impressive. Now I moved the green line here is the 5 EMA, and you can see the Nasdaq now. It was coming down to the 10 here, and now the 5 bounced. So the Nasdaq is really firming up. You can see the 5 and the 21 have rallied through the 200, and eventually this red line here is going to get through the 200, and we're going to have a stacked uptrend here pretty darn soon here. I'm just going to stick with my same old thesis in that this V-shaped rally will eventually take out that 20,204. I'm not giving it a time frame, just eventually it will. Maybe it'll stall some more. Maybe it'll just decide to have a ripper one day. But the Nasdaq at 19,460 is not that far away, less than 800 points from 20,204. So, you have to have a thesis, you have to have an idea, you have to have a theme. And my thing is to be successful in the stock market is you have to identify the market direction. And then you have to have, not perfect, but you have to have a pretty solid stock selection, and that's how you can take advantage of an uptrending market. Now, a lot of people who watch finance TV and listen to the financial media or macroeconomic people, they're very negative, and so negativity sells, and so people are afraid, and they miss this rally, and they still don't believe this is an uptrend because they're looking at economic data instead of what the actual stocks are doing. Now, there's a lot of stocks that are not performing well at all. And so I'll give them that. There's plenty of stocks to short out there, but there's also plenty of leading stocks, and that's all I look for is leading stocks. If a stock's going down, I want nothing to do with it. I'm a front runner, trend trader. I just want stocks that are going higher. If they're going higher, great. I want them. If they're going lower, then forget they're out of my mind. So that's just the way my mind works, and that's just my philosophy. That's my practice that I've developed over many, many, many years. Too many. All right, I'm going to take a look at some of the stocks that moved the index, which you see the Nasdaq was up 61 points today and 5.2% above this 200, just cruising right along. Is Meta Platforms. Now, I was looking over the weekend at Meta and Amazon, and they both have this similar cup with handle. I didn't want to put them both on, and Meta's got this FTC case where the judge, is going to decide what to do about Meta, if they're going to split them up, leave them alone, whatever the heck they're going to do with them. But Meta's outperformed Amazon this week, so that was my mistake, my bad. This thing's up 6.25%. I selected Amazon. It's up 1%, but Meta's outperforming it this week. But you can see the similar, cup with handle patterns. It's just Amazon has not, moved the way Meta Platforms has. So maybe next week or maybe later this week. But definitely both of those caught my attention. Of the Mag 7, I'm not a real fan of the Mag 7. All right. Apple got a downgrade today, pretty rare downgrade. Uh, you know, I guess it worked. It was down less than 1/4%, but you rarely see Apple being downgraded. So that was newsworthy. And then of course Tesla's in the news a lot. Elon has managed to upset the rights and the lefts now. So he's doing a hell of a job learning about how politics works. It's absolutely miserable. Tesla was down 3.5% today. Eh, I don't know. I'm ambivalent on Tesla. I did put it on the ready list because it held up well when the Nasdaq, you know, had that down 2.5% week. But now it's pulled back to its 21. And that's intriguing to me to see if it finds support there and bounces in the next couple of days. And I think it will. Tesla's a pretty strong stock and it's got a lot of institutional support. So yeah, I think it'll find support and bounce there. Anyway, that's enough of Tesla and the Mag 7. I want to move on to the earnings reports last night. I have to start with CrowdStrike. To me, it was a very lukewarm report. You could see the earnings growth, stalling here, the sales growth, decelerating. This is, very expensive stock here doing 1 billion a quarter, in 4 quarters, it's just a little over 4 billion with 114 billion market cap, even with today's haircut of 5.7%. This is still an extremely expensive stock. So investors expect perfection from, this type of a stock, and they just did not deliver perfection this time. Not saying it's a bad company or a bad stock, because next quarter they could knock it out of the park, but it's just this quarter it wasn't up to expectations. That's all. It pulled back to its 21 here today at 445. There you can see the 21 is 449, and then it bounced, closed middle of the range. Yeah, 60% of the daily range. Let's take a look at this on the 5, because when I was walking my dog, yeah, I saw this here. It was just rallying and rallying and rallying. I'm going, it's catching some buyers, right? And then nope, the reality sets in, and it closed right around 460. So yeah, that's kind of what you get. You get a little bit of a haircut with a report like that when you're priced to perfection. HPE, this used to be one of the big juggernauts. Hewlett Packard, David Packard built Monterey Bay Aquarium, which I worked on as a kid. And he used to come by the job site in his old station wagon. He'd wear jeans and a t-shirt. And his daughter, Julie, who they built the aquarium for, was a Stanford grad, marine biologist. And they built, for a gift, he bought her an $80 million aquarium, which is the Monterey Bay Aquarium. And she used to come by, and the hard hats would give her cat calls and whistle at her, and she wouldn't give us the time of day because for good reason. Anyway, I digress. Hewlett Packard, always a company that has a place in my heart for sure. David Packard was a hell of a guy. But anyway, this thing reported and rallied up to the 200 and got rejected and then just pulled back. So if you look at this on the 5 day, you're going to see a big move up at the open and just selling and then flatlining. Not bad. Flat on the session. Yeah, but anyway, it's always good to reminisce about Hewlett Packard. The one that I was most intrigued with today was Guidewire software. I thought this was a different type of a software. I had to look it up. This is an insurance type of software. But anyway, it rallied 16.5% on this earnings. And you can see, 22% sales growth. The market likes that, right? The earnings growth went from 11% to triple digits. The market likes that. People think, because they have some fancy chart pattern that the stock's going to go up because of that. Well, longer term, it's going to go up because you have sales and earnings growth. And that's what Guidewire delivered today. And you can see it consolidated here in the base, had this double bottom pattern while the index is sold off for a couple of months. So we have a lot of patterns that look like that. And now today popped and it's up 18% on the week. So for this computer software, it says computer software financial, billing software for insurance industry. Guidewire, the stock of the day, man. And that's a nice move. All right, enough of that nonsense because I don't own it. But I like stocks. I like stocks going up, even if I don't own it. This is Dustin Moskovitz, old company, Asana. I don't think he's not the CEO anymore, I don't believe. I didn't look into it because once again, stock's going down, I'm not interested. I take it out of my mind and it's down 20% following earnings, 10%, 9% sales growth. Not going to get it done for a software stock. And then HQY, this one was a surprise, a nice surprise, up 9%. You got this cup with handle pattern, and this one blasting off. This is very nice breakout. One not to be ignored. All right, that was last night's earnings report. Then this morning we heard from this company Rev Group. REVG is the ticker symbol. And this one was up 15% with massive volume breaking out of this Consolidation pattern had this like bull wedge pattern as it pulled back to the 21, caution ahead of earnings. And this thing just smoked them, man. Look at that. Up, more than 15%. Yeah, you can see the 18% short interest here. So shorts get fried. I love it when the short gets fried. Quit being so cute and shorting these stocks, man. Get on the long side. No, some stocks deserve to be shorted, and people make money doing that. All right, so that's it for no, I lied. Dollar Tree reported this morning, not quite the same as Dollar General, had an 8% haircut with their report, traded down to the 21. So still, you're looking at, increasing sales growth. They're doing better, right? 2% earnings growth. They're doing better. Dollar Tree and Dollar General, but got a little bit of a haircut, maybe got a little bit of ahead of itself as it was surfing the five. This is why, making new highs into the print, oftentimes it's just, buy the rumor and, sell the news when you get the new data point. All right. I'm going to take you down the negative road. I don't like doing this, but I'm going to bring you back on the positive path. And I'm going to start with the energy group. Energy group was down today. I'm going to start with the leader of the group, GEV, and this one was down a week ago on that downgrade where it pulled back to its five. That proved to be an opportunity where it traded down to 462, did not get down to the old pivot point, but bounced off its five. And then yesterday was up to 500. And today just pulled back, a little bit. So these pullbacks are just relieving some pressure. This is healthy, longer term for GEV. And some people, want to get off the train, and then some people want to get on the train. Today might have been a good day to get on the train, or maybe tomorrow if it trades below that five, which is a 483 today. The low is 486. So, in spirit, it traded down to its five. I'm going to be watching that one, but the entire energy complex was just down today for the most part. These leaders, Vistra just down a little bit, had a good day yesterday. That one's on my ready list. And then Constellation got a downgrade. They had that deal with Meta Platforms. They ripped up to 342 on Tuesday, then sold off. Closing range, that's a big candle right there. That's a big bar. 342 down to 309. And then today got downgraded and it traded down to 298, closed at 299. Again, near the lows of the session, 5% of its daily range. A little tighter trading today as opposed to yesterday. But yeah, these stocks are, they've had nice runs and they've been really strong, and people are going to take profits on them. In RG, another one, this is doing nothing wrong here. It just closed right at its 5 EMA 157.76, where to close 156.97. Yeah, after hours. To me, that's, it's just forming a little ledge here. And these flat bases take 5 weeks to form. So I think this has only been like 3 weeks. Yeah, it closed here at 159 4 weeks ago. One, two, three, yeah, four. So give it another week or so for NRG, but it still looks fine to me. It's up on the week. Excuse me for toggling back and forth. I just want to get that. It is up on the week despite, weakness today. And yeah, I don't see any sell signals there unless you just get tired of holding the damn thing. And there's other stuff that's jumping off. And I get it, because when, one sector's out of favor for the day, you want to, rotate your money into something that's really moving. I understand that completely. But there were some other names that held up okay today. Talon, this one, it's forming this base and it's near that buy point there at 258.03. I'm not going to include this on the ready list though, because I think it needs a little bit of a pullback, maybe next week. And then the other one was LEU. This is one of those uranium plays, nuclear power plant plays. And this one's going nuclear up 7% today. It's not, listening to the the downgrades or anything. This thing's up 11% for the week. OKLO, though, has had 5 or 6 consecutive losing sessions. And I thought after three it would bounce off the five, but it didn't. And now today it really pulled back down to 45, then closed at 49. Okay, not bad. Where's the 66% of the daily range? Let's see what that looks like. Because when I was looking at it, man, people were giving me a hard time, like, "Oh, close sucks, your stock." But this happens to stocks, right? I mean, they sell off. I put this one on my red list. My bad, didn't work out. That's just trading. Just move on to the next. But to me, it's holding up okay. If you weren't in it and you want it in it, that looks like a nice shake out, a nice handle there, down to 45. I would imagine that would kind of be the low there, unless it wants to fill that gap there at 40, 40, 43, is it? 40, 43. Yeah. We'll see. Today the low is 45.05, but I wouldn't be surprised if this thing starts to get momentum. It's a super strong stock, and you can see here, what is this, 5 consecutive days of selling. Yeah, that thing's going to bounce pretty soon. A lot of shorts in that one as well. All right, enough of that nonsense. SMR, another nuclear play. Yeah, sold off 2%. That's okay. All right, that's enough of the negative stuff. I want to go to a stock, CoreWeave here. I'm going to go to the software names. This is a leader of the group right now. And I compared this one to eBay yesterday, and some people gave me a hard time. I don't really care, I'm not married to these things. It's if it crashes and burns, far out. I don't care. I'll just sell it, right? But to me, I want to own this thing because every time it pulls back, it's being bought. I was first attracted to it here is it was an IPO, obviously affiliated with NVIDIA, and it had this little reversal here and got above the prior, what was that, 64? Yeah. It had this reversal here. And I checked back yesterday. Somebody asked me, my first buy was at 52. It was on this day right here. Now I let it run up and then I sold it half at 100. And then it ran up some more. I think it was this day, 125. And then it pulled back and I sold it about 110. So I was completely out of it. And then then it started doing this right on Monday. And I'm going, shh. So I got back in, bouncing off the five. And so I'm back in CoreWeave again, but am I going to stay long? I don't know. But anytime there's a stock like this, which is pretty rare, not very often, I think you got to take advantage of this. It's supported by the five here. I know a lot of people would just say, man, a lot of people hate this stock. It's overvalued. It's not worth it. You could buy NBIS. This is a better stock in the group. And I'm going, well, I would rather buy the one that's going higher. Yeah, this had a nice bounce today, 6%, but I mean, there's no comparison between these two stocks. I get it. You got to be nimble here if you want to own this one. So somebody's asked me like, how can I buy CoreWeave? I want to own it. Well, every time it pulls back, today it pulled back. And one of my friends is giving me a hard time because it went up to 158 this morning. What is that? 5 minutes in, it's at 158. Okay, so it opened up and it was trading higher. And then I don't know what, half an hour later, it's making its low there at 10:10. So 40 minutes into the session, half hour later, it's making a low of 143.30. How can you hold a stock that goes from 158 to 140? Well, to me, this is fantastic and exciting and entertaining type of stuff for me to watch. And then where does it find support, right? Well, buyers come in right away. So the dip is being bought. And at 11 o'clock, an hour and a half into the session, it's already made its low of what did I say, 144? 144, and then 45 minutes later, it's making another high, 159, above this high here, 158. So if you're a day trader, that's kind of like a go sign, right? It's making new highs, and then what does it do? It trades off, sells off again. So it's very confounding, right? Down to 149, and then into the close, it just rips, right? It went up to like 165, 166. There you go. So every time, it dips, it's being bought. And this move here yesterday, this is a 25% move, folks. I mean, so after a 25% move, you'd expect for it to give back 5, 6, 8, 10%. And after a 25% move, there it is on Tuesday, it comes back and is up 8% on Wednesday. I know it's a very fast stock. It's to me, it's just fascinating, and I got to own it. I got to be involved with something like this. But I get it. It'll give you gives you heart palpitations owning this thing. But to me, if it comes back to the five there, and the five, if I show you this here, how fast the five is moving. Just last Friday, it was at 108, and then on Monday, the five was at let me get the right day here. Monday, not Tuesday, you dummy. What did I say? 108, then it's 112 yesterday. It was 125, and today the five is 137. So this thing is just flying up there, from last Friday, 100 to 137, 37 points. So, if you wait for the five, it might be above 163 by the time, you wait for a pullback for the five. So to me, it's just if you're watching this on a 5-minute chart, just when it pulls back and starts to bounce, then you can get in and just kind of day trade it. That's, I wouldn't, yeah, that's the way I would handle it. So you asked, that's the way I told you. So that's the way I handle it. So anyway. That's trading, man. That's trading. It's not, it's messy sometimes. When you get a stock like that, it's like having a tiger by the tail, man, or a bucking bronco. If you ever rode a bucking bronco, those things will throw your ass in the dirt. And so, yeah, beware. I mean, it's super hot stock. But like I said, the institutions own it. I think it was a Will Danoff there at Fidelity, and he was increasing shares last quarter. So, yeah, we'll see about CoreWeave. I just think it's going higher. I could be wrong. I could be dead wrong, and it could just crash down to 50, back to the IPO base any day. So yeah, I try to keep an open mind, try to stay flexible. That's my story on that. All right. App Lovin, this is a stock that I have on the ready list. I've had it for the last couple weeks. I think the original buy point was around 350, 349, or 352. And I've had it on for the last couple weeks. And now this week I left it on at 400 because I had a feeling it was going to drive through 400, and it did today. It's 420 after hours, but it's widely anticipated that this is going to be included in the S&P 500 index, which is no reason to buy a stock. You buy a stock for this, their sales and earnings growth, which is phenomenal. And that's what's going to carry it longer term. Now, it might get a spike, 5, 6, 10% spike because it's going into the S&P 500. That's all well and good. You could trade the spike. I suspect that if it is included, it'll be announced Friday after the close. It's going to get a 10% pop. It'll probably up above 450 with the inclusion. So that would be a nice trade, and I believe it will get included. And this is why the S&P 500 index is, over time, a worthwhile vehicle to park some money in. Not only does, the S&P pay a dividend, it goes up, over time, not every year, but year after year, decade after decade, it goes higher because it kicks out the non-performers, and it includes stuff like AppLovin, which has got the sales and earnings growth, which is trading higher, strong stock. And that's what you should do with your portfolio. You should get rid of the laggards or non-performers and then include or keep the ones that are performing for you, and then include some other ones that are performing well that you don't own. So that's it. Be a front runner. Kick out the laggards, kick out the non-performers, and include those winners. And that's how the S&P does it, and that's why the Dow is only 30 stocks, and they bring in NVIDIA and Apple and Microsoft, and they kick out the other junk stocks. So that's what you should do with your portfolio as well. That's why it's worthwhile to index if you don't have time to look at the computer and trade, and you're working, you have kids, I get it. Sock some money away in one of these things for 30 years, and it pays off over time. All right, enough with the preaching today. Spotify's has got this double bottom, man. This is why I don't trade this stock. You just got to own this thing, man. It just does this. Now it'll probably pull back the next couple of days below 700, pull back to its five. It's 3.7% above the five, which is 676 today, but it closed above 700. Just a monster of a stock. Spotify, and I heard some people saying, "Oh, you got to sell it there, 700 is going to have problems." Well, if you're a trader, fine. If you're a trader, go ahead, sell Spotify all you want. But to me, selling Spotify here at 700 is like selling Netflix at 500 or 400. Because, yeah, Netflix was way back when, right? Netflix was, yeah, yeah. It's like selling Netflix around here, right? Oh man, it hit 500, hit 400. You got to sell it. No, you don't. If you want to hold longer term, I think Spotify is fine. Netflix, again, one of the winning stocks. You could see they're making new highs. Anyway, I don't know why I'm so preachy today. Sorry about that, folks. Um, Roblox. Roblox, another one of these winners that, I, I don't, this chart speaks for itself. I mean, it's just surfing along the five so perfectly. I mean, this is, a kindergartner can figure this out. Just every time it comes to the green line, bounces off it and goes higher. You don't need to be a real smart person to figure that out. So Roblox looks to me, I don't mean to be condescending either. Roblox is a strong stock. I think it's going to 100 before it runs into some real resistance. And the reason why Roblox is going higher is because it's got these big blue numbers, right? 37%, 26% earnings growth, 32%, 29% sales growth. And you look forward, in this box here, it's going to have some sales growth going forward as well. So Roblox is a big winner. And, it's just going higher. I mean, so I like stocks going higher. I don't like stocks going lower. So I try to keep it as simple as possible. All right, Reddit. I had Reddit on my Reddit list this week, and some people looked at me like I had three eyeballs or I was a cyclops or something. It's below its 200. I get it. But, here's a couple things about Reddit. The 5 and now the 21 are trading through the 50, and that's why I put it on the Reddit list. The RS line's heading up. I know the 200's there, but let's pretend that the the stock doesn't know that black line is there. And to me, it's just, I had this IPO base, had this big run, then got into the stage 4 decline. Now it's forming a base, and this is like a stage 1 base, and it's entering like a stage 2 advanced phase. That's my opinion. And I think once it gets above the 200 there, which today was 122.51, it'll attract it'll attract more buyers, technical traders. And then once it takes out that 130.11, man, this thing's off to the races. I'm not saying it's going back to 230, but certainly, 150, you'll take a trade from, I don't know what my buy point was here with Reddit. If I look around at my chicken scratch here, 113.80. Yeah, so if you take 113.80 up to 150, I think you'll take that trade. But anyway, Reddit looks fine. Yeah, it looks really good to me. I know it's below the 200. I know that black line's there, but hopefully the stock doesn't. And some traders will catch on once it does trade above the 200. And you can see it's just trending. And that's why I put it on, because the faster term moving averages are trading through the slower term. So anyway, it's not the only one, but I just chose Reddit because I like Reddit. And I like DoorDash. Another stock making new highs today, man, just powering higher. There's six stocks that, I just like that I bought, and I'm just holding on. This DoorDash is one of them. Robinhood, TGTX, help me out here, folks. Rubric, Dutch Bros. Anyway, but to me, this thing has not broken out yet. If you look at the monthly chart, yeah, it's had a nice month, up 5%. It's only been, what, three sessions. Last month it was up 5%. I just think it's going a lot higher, and it's a perfect kind of business model for this current economic environment. And that's my story. And I'm staying with Dash. All right. Just changing gears now. I got to go to these. You thought CrowdStrike was going to bring this entire cohort down. At least I did. And I thought Zscaler would pull back to its 5 today, but it had other ideas. Traded up to 303, pulled back, closed 74% of the daily range. Nice tight trading here, allowing that 5 to catch up. The five's at 285 today, but it's going up, fast. On Monday, it was 271. A couple days later, it's at 285. So that thing's cooking. And Zscaler now, the leader of this group, along with Rubrik. I would, scale back on Rubrik if I had a big position. Right now, it's just they're reporting earnings tomorrow. That's why I say that. It's been surfing the 5 for a long, 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 long time. And I think I think they're going to have first of all, they're going to have a strong report. And I think there'll be a sell the news event, maybe down to the 10, just to, get some folks out, some profit takers, and then some people get off the train, and then some people will get on. And then I think it'll continue its march. But that 100 level is bound to be some type of resistance, at least, short term. All right. And the other one was Palo Alto Networks. This one I have on my ready list because it's got this beautiful cup with handle, but it's just not moving. CrowdStrike might have impacted this one, but to me, This looks pretty darn good, and it's a little slower mover because it's got, more shares outstanding. Look at that, 646 million shares outstanding. So it's a little slower than those other ones that I mentioned, which are a little leaner and meaner. All right, so that's it for the cybersecurity names. Now, I mentioned Robinhood. I'm going to go to the fintech stocks. This one now is anticipated that it will be included in the S&P 500 index too. And believe me, people talk. People on Wall Street are just like, high school kids. They think they know something that somebody else doesn't. So I know Robinhood's getting into the S&P. So they, blab like a bunch of idiots. And I know that firsthand because one of my former students, he actually he had to go to prison for tipping off people, his buddy to mergers and acquisitions that were happening. He was a VP at a bank and doing an M&A. And I had to write a character reference letter for him. So I think they gave him more time after they received my letter. No, just kidding. I think he's getting out. He's got kids and everything. Nice guy. He just made a mistake. But anyway, the point is, people on Wall Street blab all over the place, and so they talk. And maybe Robinhood is getting into the S&P. Maybe AppLovin is getting S&P 500 index after the close on Friday. And maybe these things are just going to ramp all week into that announcement. Yeah, this one's up by 9.25% this week. AppLovin is thought to be in. It's up 6%. LNG, let's talk of this one might get in. It's up a little bit. And same with FLUT. I don't know. I have no idea. This one's down 3.4%. We'll see. But Robinhood, definitely a strong stock. And once again, it's got that DoorDash, Dutch Bros, IPO base. To me, these things are just getting started. And that's why I put them in a retirement account. All right, enough of Robinhood. I've got to go to a real winner, a real hot smoking stock. This one is sizzling. This is SEZL. Remember, it had a little bit of trouble there for a couple of sessions at 100, and it just blew through it like poop through a goose. Now it's at 120. So yeah, that's in the rear view mirror. And that's why I say that stuff is short term. So in an uptrending market like this, these strong stocks are just they're flexing their muscles, man. They're like peacocks, flashing their feathers. This is Dave. Dave's not home. Having a little trouble with 200. Pull back to that 200 level after breaking out. You see these little black dots here. These are the David Ryan ants, which indicates institutional buying here. You can see up with volume. So David's a big volume guy. And this one right there, right at its 5 EMA, still, very strong stock. It doesn't qualify for our relative strength stocks because it just does not have the volume that I look for, that I want to see in, leading stocks. All right, that's it for that group. I've got to go to the retail names. I'm excited. Retail's having a little bit of a resurgence. I think, a lot of them hit bottom like Nike and Lululemon, which I'm not really interested in. But I am interested in the 5 billion market cap, 4.4 billion market cap. Yeah, they're lean and mean. They have room to grow. They've got these big blue growth numbers down here, which I like. You got to have the growth. You got to have the growth to move. And this one ran up yesterday to almost 80, pull back a little bit to its 5. Oddity looks fantastic. ODD is the ticker symbol. ELF, I put on my ready list. Once again, I don't think this thing's going to go crazy this week. It's got a couple of David Ryan ants here up with volume, but it had this big move last week on Thursday, 23.5% move, had an inside day on Friday. So right there, I like it. Now it's had 3 days this week and could not take out the low of the gap day, which is 108.58. So if it can't take out the low, it's probably going to go the other way. And today it did, challenging that high from last Thursday of 120.81. I don't think it'll do it this week, but maybe next week or the following week. And we want to take a look at the weekly chart here. This is a short stroke pattern here where it went up 34% and now doesn't even give back anything. What am I talking about? It doesn't take out the old high. It stays within the old high, but it's only up 4% on lighter volume. And that's what you want to see. Quiet week after the big week. But institutions are going to come back for another bite of ELF, and it's going to drive this stock higher. That, in my opinion. And I could be wrong, but I think that 137.19 is in play. This is a little bit different than Reddit, right? Because it's above the 200, but you could see the 5 and the 21 rallied through the 50. And, I didn't buy it because of the earnings, right? You're taking a gamble, going big into earnings, but it popped on earnings, and now this thing is just forming a little ledger. This looks fantastic to me. And anyway, that's why I put it on the ready list. That one and Reddit. Anyway, there's so much going on, so I'm making these longer videos. There's a lot to cover. CTRN, City Trends, they reported, was it Monday, and then ran up Tuesday, or they might have reported yesterday morning, but 21% move, then rallied 2.5% today. Man, 3% after hours. City Trends look fantastic. This is a breakout from a cup with handle pattern. And yeah, the retail, I know the group's like 142, but these things are starting to pop. Some of them are looking pretty good to me. And some of them are getting killed as well. So, I don't look at those. You know that. All right. Urban, this one's on our relative strength list that I post every morning. Hit MC stock charts, and now it's gapped higher following earnings 22%, and it's just kind of consolidating here. You could say this is a pennant or a flag type of pattern. We want to see that thing tighten up a little bit, but it's making higher lows, pinching in there a little bit. Let the sellers get out of the way. It looks fine. It's just going to take some time, kind of like Elf. It just needs a little bit more time. All right. SE, another retail name. This is based out of Singapore, just making new highs. I mean, it already broke out. It's running with the fives, surfing, hanging five, like Kelly Slater. This thing looks fantastic. I did mention Dutch Bros earlier. Another one that I own. I like Dutch Bros a lot. I actually went there today, and the lady was talking about, because I heard the CEO last night talking about, the food and everything. So I went and talked to a couple of employees there, and you know what? At Dutch Bros, they're really happy. Part of their culture is, they're well paid. The employees are really happy, really helpful, just a delightful. And she was talking about how many people order on their app, and you could sit at this. She showed me the screen of all these apps, so people just come and pick them up, so they don't have a big long line to wait. So there's a lot more orders on the app, so you don't have to sit there and wait in line. So it's a lot quicker than like that's part of the problem with Starbucks. But anyway. Dutch Bros, to me, this thing is not even getting started. It's growing. Yeah, stores, opening stores, and to me, you look at it, 12 to 36 months from now, and 70 is just going to be in the rearview mirror. It's going to be way higher than this. So anyway, that way I don't have to worry about the everyday wiggles. If it wiggles and wobbles around, who cares? It'll be higher in time. Cheesecake Factory, yay! This one, I guess they have one of the longest menus going. I heard it's longer than the Gettysburg Address. I don't know. I haven't been to Cheesecake Factory, but I do know that I made a new high today above the 57.32 there. I made a high of 57.56. So just pointing it out that these retail names are starting to look a little better, and maybe they've bottomed here. This is Brinker forming a base here. That could be on a ready list pretty soon. I'm liking the way that one's trading, just a little sideways action, trading tight near a moving average. I like that kind of action anyway. I've got to move on. I told you I was going to take you down the positive path, and these construction electrical power equipment stocks, are doing well. Rockwell Automation, the group, not doing great, but this one's making new highs, breaking out of this base, surfing its five, man. It's a Kelly Slater stock. You got to look at the weekly chart here. 35 billion market cap. There you go, straight up off the lows. Like a lot of stocks because of the Liberation Day. But yeah, Rockwell looks phenomenal. Looks fine to me. And power, this is one, excuse me, Quanta Services. I call it power. I don't know why, because I'm an idiot probably. But anyway, it's got this cup with handle pattern now breaking higher. Yeah, I like power. It's funny though, when I put stocks like this on the radar list, like nobody wants to talk about it. They want to talk about Reddit and CoreWeave and Roblox and Spotify and App Lovin'. People don't care about stocks like this, but it's up 5% this week. I mean, to me, I like having, some slower names in the portfolio because I can't have, all the portfolio full of CoreWeaves. I'll have a coronary and just end up in the hospital or something. So some slow and steady, wins the race. So I kind of like that, the defensive names, some of these slower moving names. AGX, this was on our ready list 2 weeks ago, I believe. And you can see it's just moving with its five here. I think it made a new high and just pulled back slightly today. So that group looking pretty darn good. And I'm going to move on to a area that I haven't covered for a while because they've just been out of favor. I mean, this is worse than the retail sector. These things have been getting murdered. The drug stocks, finding a couple, quality charts in the drug stocks is a, Herculean task, man. It takes a while to dig through them, but this one, ALNY, consolidating within a base near that pivot point, that one looks pretty darn good. 304.39 would be the pivot on that one, and a lot of people talk about hims and hers. To me, it's kind of a cult stock. So many people just bragging about this thing on Twitter. I want to tell them to shut the hell up. It's just another stock. Don't get married to these things. It did this, right? 72 to 23. That is no fun. It could do it again. So, don't be complacent here. It ran up, what, yesterday and then fell out. Man, that's a horrible candle there. Today, it makes a candle below the prior, Tuesday and Monday candles. So making lower, yeah, lows. No, thank you. Hims does not look good to me at all. Sure, might have a great business. They might have an outstanding earnings report, like they've had. But to me, this choppy action, it's not for me. It's, if it wants to bounce off the 21, fine. Then I'm more interested. But this thing looks completely weak to me. So I'm staying away from that one. EXEL is another one, forming this little, bull wedge pattern as it quietly kind of pulls back to moving average, but that thing needs to bounce. CPRX is another one. Nice looking chart, just kind of grinding higher, trading tight within the base along the 5 EMA. That one looks fine as well. Up 1.5% today, and just 1.3% for the week. So, yeah, no great shakes there. All right. Yeah, like I said, the drugs are really, really tough. TGTX, I listened to their presentation today. CEO said something interesting that their sales are phenomenal. And he says they're going to be the number one RMS drug, which right now is a Roche, which has about 6.5 billion in sales. This one, I think they guided to what 600 million, something like that, 575. So he's very confident they're going to be the number one, and they're taking market share, no doubt. But he also said that they're going to have less spending and more revenue growth and less spending because they made a TV ad. He kind of panned it and said nobody watches it but him. And so they're not going to be spending money on that stuff. They are going to be spending money on their trial, and that's going to get underway. And so that could be a big catalyst for this stock. And let me see what else. Anyway, this is just basing here. So no great, if you don't own it, you got time. It's below its 50. If you look at the weekly here, sold off, buy the rumor, sell the news. It's just been kind of creeping higher within the base here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5 weeks here. So it's got a couple more weeks to go at least. All right. Okay, tomorrow, Broadcom reports in the afternoon. This one looks fantastic. I had a friend saying, "Oh, I'm going to buy some calls for the earnings report." I said, "Go ahead, good luck. I'm not interested, but I do like Broadcom." To me, Broadcom, Taiwan Semiconductor, yeah, a couple of strong looking names. That's a nice cup with handle. AMD intrigues me in the semiconductor group. I know it's below its 200, but you can see the 5, the 21 rallied through the 50. I kind of like AMD here. Yeah, I think eventually it's going to take out that 200. You know, and I think you're probably getting a pretty good bargain here on AMD under 120 if you're into that kind of thing. And then NVIDIA is the king of the group. Looking a lot better now. Bounced off its 5. It found support. Bounced off its 5. It's been up every day this week. So NVIDIA, one of the stronger Mag 7 stocks, yeah, up 5% this week. Thank you very much. All right, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry for the long video. There's a lot going on. In honor of the great Steve Jobs, we stay hungry, we stay foolish, we stay humble, and we also have one more thing, and that's MDB after hours reporting up 13% to 227. Wow. Last time I looked at it was like 222. So MDB, nice positive response to their earnings report this afternoon. VRNT, some AI software. They mentioned AI in the report. Yeah, anyway, nice response, 18%. So we got two software names cranking after hours. I like that. I like it a lot. Retail name PVH, you'll Philip Van Heusen, down 6% after hours. I forget what they said. Something about tariffs. They guided specifically on tariffs. It was, not a very, it was um wasn't a very positive call. Obviously, it's down 6% after hours. I forget the word that he used, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll have it in the morning. And then Five Below reported another retail name here up 3.5% after hours. This one's been surfing its five. So I'll have all that in the morning. And then, tomorrow we got the big earnings reports that I'm looking forward to from Rubrik and Broadcom. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Remember, if the market dips in the morning, man, the dips are being bought. So don't get discouraged. This is an uptrend. And the futures are down just about every day, and people think, oh man, the market's going to suck, it's going to sell off, I'm going to lose money. But during the session, buyers come in and drive it higher. So anticipate a dip, embrace the dip, buy the bounce when your stocks, do dip, as long as you have leading stocks, or if you're buying the index, because dips are being bought in this market. Anyway, thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up.